Hi everybody, this is COG. I'm Red.
And I'm Orange.
And today we are going to be talking about a game that we've already talked about on this channel, the first ever COG Redux episode. And we're going to be talking about Untitled Goose Game, but this time I'm with my friend Orange.
Yeah, this is my first time playing it. The reason we revisit this one is recently they've added an update to the game that allows functionality for 2 players. For my first playthrough, I liked it. I liked it, but there's some caveats to that. And we'll get into those, but I'm curious for you, when you come to this game with already having played it in single player as your only option, what do you think of adding another player to the game? Do you think there's a point in that?
Yes, I would say that there is a point to adding co-op, and I actually was really excited to play this with you because I didn't like the game the first time I played it. If you revisit that first episode or that first review, I just bring up a bunch of points of why I don't like this game. And I'm going to try to not re-say those things, but I just didn't like it. And I was really excited to do a co-op mode because I thought maybe that would bring something to the game that wasn't there in the original version of it. I thought that it could maybe liven it up a little bit and we could kind of bounce off each other and have fun. Personally, I fucking hate this game even more with co-op. I do not like the game at all. I think that this is one of the worst games that I have played on the channel, and it's even worse with co-op.
Those are some pretty strong opinions there, man.
I know, but it's the truth. I really don't like the game. We played the whole game together. Within 5 minutes of me playing it, I was squirming in my chair, wishing that I was doing something else.
Yeah, it was like revisiting a bad memory for you.
I fucking hated it.
Except you actually had to do the memory again.
Yeah, I would rather go back to my high school geometry class than play this goddamn game again. I really didn't like it.
I don't think it was that bad, but I do have a question for you. We played it on your Switch today, and this relates to me liking it, right? There's a caveat here, which is, how much did you pay for it?
I want to say it was $20.
Okay, and is that probably like what you get it for now?
Yeah.
So I like the game, but it's not worth $20 roughly with 2 players or by yourself. I'd say it's about an hour and a half, and there is a lot to do, but it's not stuff that you're going to be rewarded for. I think the game carries itself on the fact how much can you laugh at these geese, and I like it because there's a lot of funny scenarios. The mechanics alone are enough to help me carry that idea along just with the bare bone mechanics that we have, but for $20 there's not a whole lot offered here. Movie tickets are cheaper and run longer.
If for anybody that doesn't know, if you've somehow managed to dodge this game, the mechanics are super simple. You just kind of run around, press, I want to say A to grab things and Y to honk, and you annoy the shit out of these people. And that's kind of just the game. It is really simple. There's really not much else to it. And you're right when you say that the payoff for these mechanics and the things that you're doing is laughing at these people, right? So my main issue with the whole game is I don't find it funny.
I don't have anything against that. It's funny for a moment, and some of these moments can be funnier than others. There's an example where I brought a tennis racket into a dude's house. It made sense that he kicked us out, but it was funny when he swung open the door and threw the tennis racket out too. I liked that because I didn't expect him to just throw the racket out, and I don't know how I lost it along the way, so seeing it fly back at me was funny. But the game is full of those types of scenarios where you have to just piss your neighbors off or these neighbors off, and it wears out after a while. The things they do aren't so funny anymore. In fact, they're almost the same always. They chase you and they don't pick you up. They just kind of budge you around, and that actually leads to some pretty annoying moments too. I'd rather them pick me up.
Yeah, I would too, because just like with my first video, I feel like the game isn't fun because there's no punishment for anything that you're doing. And I think that that's a big issue just within a video game in and of itself. You have to have some kind of win-lose. And with this game, all they do is push you. It's not fun. It's actually really frustrating when they're pushing you around and you can't get out of their grasp. I would rather, like you said, they pick you up and take you out of the yard or something like that.
Yeah, it's the core of the game that I like. I like this setting. Just being a silly goose. That's fun. Now there's some things that I don't like. There's some things with the camera that I'm really not liking. We both played good job, and that one actually had good camera movement. It was also one of these types of games, I'd like to say. It was around the same time this one came out for the first time, and the way they handled split screen in that, it would just make sense if they did it this way here. Maybe they just didn't have that functionality built in. Second, they didn't use the second player in a way that I thought we were going to be playing. So I was pretty disappointed to see that we couldn't mark 2 things off the checklist at once. It was actually really difficult to complete 2 objectives with 2 players because you can't move too far apart from each other, and a lot of the objectives take place all over the little zone you're in. So I couldn't go off and do this while you're distracting the guy. We had to stick really close together, which would end up with us bumping into each other, getting the things taken away from us. It was a whole mess.
And I would say it was even harder to do the objectives with 2 people
It was.
than it was to do it with 1, because some of these objectives have to do with you sitting and waiting for somebody to do something, where if you have another person, you just want to fuck around and you end up failing these tasks and maybe not even understanding the puzzle completely because you're too busy messing around with each other. There was also a lot of issues with the AI where they didn't know which goose to pay attention to. Like, for example, let's say I was like throwing a fit. They wouldn't come for me because you're closer to them or something weird like that. I did not understand the logic of the AI at all.
The AI has a focus for 1 player at a time, which that's fair. It's just implementing that with 2 players, it creates too many issues that it almost removes you from the game. The immersion is gone because now you're working on just figuring out the mechanic and not playing the game.
Yeah, you're not really messing around with these people. And in order for this humor to really work, they have to feel somewhat realistic. You have to be able to see their personalities and how they're going to act towards this goose. But if you're with 2 people, they never get to show that because they're always chasing somebody.
They get distracted very easily. They'll look left and right, left and right, left and right. It's like if you implemented 2 players into like Skyrim, you know, all the NPCs would be doing really strange things, trying to focus on 2 players at once and, you know, glitching out, maybe having different dialogue. It almost felt like that. It just didn't feel right.
It definitely was one of those cases where they just kind of threw another player in there, I felt like. There were a couple instances where you had to work together. The end with the bell being one. Another part was in the beginning you could kind of pull open the gate together because there's 2.
Yeah, now there's 2 rungs.
Which I don't actually remember if that's different or not. But those were okay. I just wish that there was more to it.
Yeah, there's that one at the end with the bell where you have to help pull the tower down. Because I sat there and watched you, because most of the game was consistent in letting me know that I don't get to help you with that, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, they don't let you know. You discover that, and then you have to deal with it. So I didn't help you at first until I noticed it not doing anything, went over and tried, and yeah, sure enough, that part allows for 2 players. It just feels like they dropped another player in there.
Let me ask you this, though. You did say you liked the game. Were there any sections that you really enjoyed?
That's a complicated answer. I liked the game, but it's not for its sections in particular. They're all really the same. It was like getting to play with you that made it fun. You know, being 2 annoying geese and kind of seeing your personality in the game and like mine meshing with it. We're just getting along just like we do, but in a game. That was what made the game special for me. But sorry, dude, that's not something I'm willing to spend $20 on when we could do that for free. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a cute game and it was fun to play with you, but there's not a whole lot of draw there. I know it's a weird reason to like a game, but that's the reason I really like it.
I get what you're saying, and let me propose something. I want to see if you think this way or if anybody else does on the internet. I feel like there's this particular type of game now that is newish, that is like a social game. Like it's meant for you to be social with other people. And what I mean by that is like Fall Guys or Untitled Goose Game or a lot of these streaming games or even Among Us. I feel like these games are all made for you to get on with friends, and the game doesn't really entertain you. It's the people you're with are entertaining.
Yeah, they're keeping the experience fresh for themselves and for you. Like they create the story almost. Because I've played games like this in the past that were rudimentary, but the aspect of the game comes from playing with people socially. You know, this takes me back to games like Gary's Mod and the game mode inside of it, Trouble in Terrorist Town. And there's also that pretty popular Flash game, which was Town of Salem. These types of games existed for a while, and they've always kind of just got replaced by another one. There's definitely a resurgence of this social type of game. And I think that's because developers can expect most people have a headset nowadays. They can expect that they have maybe outside ways of communicating with people, such as Discord, so they don't need to implement VoIP into their games.
Or Twitch or YouTube.
Yeah, exactly, which turns almost any game into a social aspect, but there are games that exist just to cater to like those types of audiences. So there's a huge resurgence, and I think Untitled Goose Game is one of those. It's just maybe not on the same scale.
So if we were to call this a social game though, and it's meant for people to kind of show off in Twitches or YouTube or play with their friends on Discord and stream to each other, is that a bad thing? Like, how are we supposed to rate that as I guess, internet critics.
I think with stuff like this, it's not a bad thing to play with people. I think what we need to check off on the list is like, okay, was it a good time? Like, did we actually have fun playing it? I think if we did, that's one good thing. Another is it constantly changing? Because these social games, they rely on people, and people's interests change. So these games have to change their interests to some degree. Are these games changing then? If they're not, or they're not changing enough, they're going to get put to the wayside. It doesn't make them a bad game. Some of them might not even be games at all. It doesn't also make them a good game necessarily.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, because Untitled Goose Game is super popular and it has gained a ton of money, would that game be considered better than Travis Strikes Again? Because it doesn't make as much money.
I see what you're saying.
And Travis Strikes Again is almost a completely different type of experience. Should we even be comparing these two? Or, like, is there a way to judge these social type games in an, I guess, for lack of a better word, a somewhat objective kind of way?
The objective standpoint is, was it worth my money? Because currently, like, I don't feel like Fall Guys was worth my money. That's on our video. I don't know if I would have happily spent the kind of money for Untitled Goose Game. So that's how I'm rating these types of games, is was it worth the value to me? Now, if I had a great time playing it with you, then yeah, it was worth $20. You know, if we played Fall Guys a whole bunch together and had awesome memories in it, then totally it was worth it. Because I've played social games like that, like World of Warcraft. I always throw that one in there, but World of Warcraft can be so many things. The social aspect of that game has almost been what's kept me around for like 7 or 8 years. These games don't really do that. They do it almost temporarily, and for me, that's where I just have to drop it. That's my objective standpoint. Was it worth it?
I don't really think any game necessarily is objective. I think everything is pretty much subjective. But I will say this, in my opinion, games such as Fall Guys, unless they get updates, such as Untitled Goose Game, are going to be replaced quickly. And I think Untitled Goose Game is actually a great example of that, because after this update, I didn't see a Twitter explosion.
No, but when it came out, it was Madhouse.
Yeah, but if the game, in my opinion, was fun enough, it would have been another explosion with this update.
Yeah, I feel like any popular AAA game currently, they could throw some kind of social update out and it would be a huge deal. So maybe there's another measurement there of like what made this game good. And it doesn't have to be a Twitter explosion that makes a game good, but if you're watching people not return to it like they did before, maybe the update wasn't good. Maybe the game is just outdated. It's lived its life, you know. Unless it's updated, I don't think there's much you can do to save the lifespan of Untitled Goose Game. I don't even think adding 4 players would make this a better game. There just isn't really a whole lot there to do with 2 players. There's plenty to do for 1, but 2 players is weird.
All right, so with all of that said, would you recommend Untitled Goose Game?
Yeah, if you can pick it up for $5, that's worth it. Because it's not that bad. It's just a little pricey.
I am going to stick with my original statement. No, I do not recommend Untitled Goose Game. Once the jokes have gone stale, once people have stopped talking about it, I feel like this game no longer has a purpose. And I think that there's no reason to buy it unless you find the humor funny, which, you know, humor is incredibly subjective and you might really enjoy it, the whole thing. I personally did not, but it's just not that good to me. I think if you think it's really that funny too, you could probably just look up a Let's Play and get the same experience. So in my opinion, do not buy this game.
I'm just going to name drop Good Job. Good Job has some better puzzles. It's funny almost the whole way through, and they're changing their jokes. You can see their jokes in the level design. You can see their jokes in what your objectives are. So it's funny the whole way through, and they change it. And it's got a similar art style too. It's kind of cutesy, very simplistic, and it has 2-player functionality. It has from the start. So I would say maybe go another path. And then if you really, really liked that game and you want more, then buy Untitled Goose Game next and play that. But that wouldn't be my first recommendation.
I actually totally agree with you. I think Good Job is a very similar type of game. I do recommend Good Job over this because it's a lot longer. Puzzles are awesome. Go check that out. It feels like a real game. But I think that's about it. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We love all of you guys. We really like the support. This is COG signing off.
See you later, guys.